There's a rather different episode of the Water Road podcast this time because it's devoted to an interview with the outgoing Chief Executive of the Canal and River Trust, Richard Parry. But don't worry if you prefer the travelling episodes. Next time we'll be at Foxton, exploring the staircase locks and hearing about the inclined plane boat lift, which replaced them for a while.
The lady that opened the museum, she was one of the last people that had a memory of travelling on the boat lift. Daisy Dainty, she was amazing. And she was terrified, she said, because she felt like she was going to tip out. And you think about it, actually, it must have been quite a weird sensation. You're sort of floating in these tanks that are going down sideways. It must have been very strange.
So that's Foxton next time on the Water Road podcast. But now we're talking to Richard Parry, who's been in charge of CRT for 12 years. The Canal and River Trust runs most of the inland waterways in England and Wales and was formed to replace British waterways. Richard Parry steps down this summer and I sat down with him at the Crick Boat Show in a marquee that was being battered by the wind to hear his reflections on his time in charge. Well, Richard, thank you very much for talking to the Water Road podcast. So you're about to step down after 12 years in charge of the Canal and River Trust, and of course you took the job just as it was changing from British Waterways into the charity. Do you think that move from a sort of government organisation into a charity has been a success?
I think it's been a real success, Adam. I think it was a visionary thing to have done. Great credit to everyone involved in creating the trust, those within British Waterways, Tony Hales, Robin Evans and the team, but also those in government. The politicians, started under Labour, was picked up by the coalition government, particularly Caroline Spelman, Richard Benyon, but all the officials as well who made a lot of difficult things happen. And I think the idea of a national charity that could tap into all the latent goodwill and support that there is for our canal network was a brilliant idea. I think the canal network is in a far better and more, promising place now than it would have been had it stayed part of government.
I know lots of boaters always think that you give too much priority to people walking the towpath or anglers or other sort of casual users. But do you think they're important in a wider way for the future of the waterways?
I absolutely do think that. It's difficult to strike the right balance, of course, because I do know how important it is that the Canal and River Trust supports boating, recognises that boaters are paying a considerable licence fee, and there's vital, that we provide a good service as best we can with this very old network and all its challenges. But for the future, we need that support from a much wider audience. So the 10 million people who are using towpaths, all the others who have an interest in it, a passion for it, who value it, we need them to be part of this big mass movement, lending their support, hopefully many of them giving some donations to our work, some of them maybe volunteering, others simply championing the cause, getting politicians to understand how important it is for all those communities that canals run through. So I think we need to have a very strong partnership, almost, if you like, between the boaters who are getting such value for what they pay for it, but of course are expecting with that to have the service that they pay for, and the millions of others on the towpaths without whom we simply won't generate the long-term funding that the canal network will certainly need if it's to thrive and be available for boaters and for everyone for the future.
Because funding must be the big challenge for the future, isn't it?
It's absolutely the centre of our challenges for the future. Clearly the condition of the network, the toll that the more extreme weather events that we're experiencing will take on the network, they're part of really that same overall equation, which is what do you need to have as a funding pot to deliver all the care, the maintenance, the long-term investment that the canal network needs. We see that cost rising, and therefore we need to find ways in which our income can also rise to meet the needs of the long-term canal network sustainability. So the finances can't be avoided. It has to, of course, be about much more than that. It has to be about the stewardship of the network and the work we do to deliver that. It has to be about that wider partnership with all those millions of people, but fundamentally that brings us back to a position where the financial resources are available to ensure the canal network is well cared for, well maintained, and can have a prosperous future.
Now, I was here on Friday evening when you were speaking just at the end of the award ceremony that they did, and you said you'd love to be able to bring government ministers round the show and show them how good the waterways are for the economy.
Yeah.
I was wondering, how easy is it to get government ministers interested in things like canals and rivers?
I think it works at two levels. So there's a sort of an immediate interest. It's very easy to get politicians in their constituencies to come out and see some of our work, to engage with volunteers in that community. Maybe there's a community boat or other ways in which there's a definite sort of realisation of the value of the canal network. There might be a hire boat base, there might be a marina. Politicians are good at valuing those local things. The challenge for us has been making the connection to say, okay, so because we all value what we've got on our doorsteps and the benefits it gives, let's look at that at a much bigger national aggregate level to see how the canal network has to be supported to deliver that benefit. You know, the business case, if you like, the benefit cost ratio of investing in the canal network is very, very positive, very strong business case, but it's making the connection to see the local magnified up to become that overall national story that's sometimes a challenge. And politicians are busy. They have 101 distractions. Cutting through some of that to see that this sort of almost underlying long-term institution almost needs the same support as a new venture, as a new project, so that they don't take for granted the underlying benefit that a thriving canal network will deliver. That's often been the challenge, to make sure it gets that attention.
So are there things people can do to get their local MP involved, do you think?
Certainly we'd encourage all supporters, all enthusiasts, all listeners to this podcast to let your MPs know that it's something you care about. It's got to start with that, so that politicians who are, absolutely understandably motivated by the interests of their constituents get to see this is something that is important to them, and that will spark their interests, I hope, turn them towards us, give us the opportunity then to make our case so they truly understand why we are describing an investment in this network that has such positive long-term benefits.
So just thinking back to your 12 years, one of the things I've noticed is that whenever you go to a canal event, Richard Parry pops up. What are you going to do with your weekends in future?
Well, I will miss coming to these amazing range of canal events. It's a wonderful feature of our network that it generates so many different sorts of activity, weekends, but often through the week as well. I will be exploring other aspects of life, Adam. I will be looking for other ways in which to fulfill and enjoy things. I think it's important that I step a little away from the canal networks to give my successor, to give the team, time to sort of develop, their approach without me sort of standing in the background. But I'm very passionate about the canal network. I have thoroughly enjoyed being part of it. I absolutely will stay connected to it in some capacity, even if it's merely as an enthusiast, an advocate, a supporter of the network in the way that I know millions of others are.
Well, it does seem to be one of those passions that really gets people, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly does. I mean, people who have invested far bigger parts of their lives than I have in this, the volunteers giving so much, I never cease to be impressed and amazed really by how much inherent goodwill there is for the canal network, how many people are switched onto it, how many people have, whether it's because they've got boats, whether it's because they give up their weekends, whatever it is, there's millions of people giving something back to the canal network, recognising this incredible historical legacy that we all get to enjoy. It is remarkable that so much of it has survived, that so much of it was restored, and then the renaissance that it has inspired, having something on our doorstep that delivers nature to so many communities, that gives green and blue space where people can access it, not far-flung in distant locations, but right on the doorstep in some of the most heavily, densely built urban areas. It's a miracle that we have something that is so readily available to so many millions of people, that is in a form in which it can be enjoyed by so many of those people. And that's something for us all to celebrate, never take for granted, continue to strive to make the case for the ongoing support that it will need. It will not be there if we don't actively care for it.
So are you confident that the canals really do have a bright future then?
I am confident that canals will have a bright future, but it's not inevitable. It will only happen if the care that we feel for it is demonstrated in the actions that we take. There is some jeopardy for the canal network. We did see, after all, 100 years ago, canals go into a decline that I think people would not have expected it to break out of. That was achieved because of the remarkable work of the pioneers at the IWA in all the numerous canal societies up and down the country that fought to keep the canals, to bring them back to life, to make them these wonderful networks for leisure, recreation, health, well-being, nature. And they could go into decline again if we don't deliver the care that they need. And that is about funds, it is about support, but it is about taking the passion that we've got and turning it into action that keeps canals open and alive.
Richard, that's great. Thanks very much. Well, that rallying cry for the support of our canals and rivers brings us to the end of this edition of The Water Road. The podcast is produced and presented by me, Adam Porter. Please give us a nice review if you're enjoying the series, and subscribe or follow us to be alerted to future episodes. Don't forget, next time we'll be at Folkestone, one of the really special places on the Canal Network. Thank you for listening to The Water Road.